Hello everyone, I am currently watching the most underrated show that was on television, Search Party. Search Party is about how four friends are covering up a murder that they all participated in. If you want to know why, then watch season 1. The series is hilariously funny and smart, not to mention it's easy to watch. Now let's dive into the first half of season 3. So let's start with episode 1. We start off the episode with Dory recounting the arrest we left off last season. When she's at the station, she's being processed and she makes her phone call to Gail, her old boss. The gang in the meantime is meeting up to discuss their next move, and they all get a call from Gail explaining that Dory has been arrested for murder. They all decided to go home and act normal, but I'd argue that maybe seeing your girlfriend when she's arrested is the most normal thing to do, but they're not really together, but whatever. We come back to Dory at the station and she tries to find a way to get the tape with the confession on it. Of course, it can't be that simple because she is handcuffed, so she has to be smart about it. She meets an old friend from high school who talks her ear off, and she literally goes insane in the middle of their conversations, always being haunted by April because of what she did to her. So anyway, she decides to hurt herself, and she makes up this whole story about needing pills in her purse to help her out with the injuries on her face because she makes her nose bleed. And she's like, I have a virus, and the guy behind the counter gives her things from her purse, and she ends up getting the tape, and she ends up destroying it in front of him. And
do you want everyone in this building to die? No! Give me the bag now! No, what are you doing? Are you great? You're a lunatic. What are you doing? Stop that! Stop that!
We cut to Drew, and he's leaving for China. Like, he's literally at the airport. In fact, he's on the plane itself. Elliot is confessing to his fiance, maybe being involved in Dory's murder. Portia confronts her cult leader boyfriend if he told anyone about the murder because she confessed it to him. And to be honest, I think that Portia isn't capable of handling this whole situation. She's super fragile, and I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Like, she's always crying throughout this first half of the season. She's always in a pitiful state. Drew gets arrested and Dory gets sent to the penitentiary, and when they see each other in passing at the station, it really is breathtaking. Okay, so when Dory eventually gets carted off to the penitentiary, she gets to meet the press, and for the first time she sees how popular she is. Episode 2, the whole gang gets ousted on television about the murder of Keith, and they are all frantic to see what to do. Dory's having a hard time in jail and meets a very aggressive inmate. Portia realizes who called in the tip and runs off and meets Elliot in a van. Elliot is a hoot, like Jesus, he's the funniest and one of the smartest in the group. He knows that Drew has been arrested and they're on the run. Dory gets out of jail and she meets with her lawyer, Diamond Cassidy. Drew is with his family and they are trying to form a game plan. His family is really annoying, by the way, and he kind of confesses to them twice that he killed Keith. And it's funny because every time he confesses, his parents dismiss it and they go with their own truths. Chantal is with her family and they decide what she should do after they found out the truth about her side of things, like she wasn't really kidnapped and she was just hiding in Canada. Portia and Elliot go to hide out in a mansion on a beach. Apparently it belonged to Elliot's ex-lover, and in a series of unfortunate events, they have to be nannies to a bunch of kids. They also dye their hair like pitch dark to help disguise themselves, and they look super creepy. While babysitting on the beach, they come to the conclusion that they can still make it out alright if Dory pleads self-defense. They have a mini breakdown and yell out in the middle of the ocean, and it's kind of funny at the same time. They keep yelling out self-defense, and they kind of rejoice frantically. Episode 3, the gang meets up at the ocean and discuss what to do next. Elliot wants to know who tipped off the police, and April's name is brought up, and we all know what happened to April. Dory denies the possibility that it could be her, and when the gang presses her on it, she lies about April going somewhere tropical and paying her off, so there's no way she could turn on them. And we all know how bad Dory is at lying, so it might come to bite her in the butt. The gang goes to the car and Portia reveals who the tipper was, and Elliot loses his shit.
Who?
I told Elijah, but it was a secret, and then he told his stage manager friend, and then she called in the tip.
Portia!
Again, he is a scene stealer, and it turns out that the tipper was actually a stagehand of her cult boyfriend, so it was her fault that the police was tipped off. The U.S. attorneys, in the meanwhile, they meet with the dopey cop that shot herself in the arm, and they tell her that they have evidence that she lied about the whole situation. So the cop gets fired, and yeah, the scene is pretty great. They basically tell her, we know you've been lying about who really committed the murders and who shot you. And she was like, bullshit, and they played their evidence for her, and she looked so stupid.
The day Franklin died, he was wearing a wire.
Good. That should help clear this whole thing up.
Oh, shit. Okay, I know what I have to do. I'm gonna have to shoot myself. So if you were standing there and I'm standing here, then I should just shoot myself over here. Okay.
I, for one, didn't hear I killed Keith, and now I'm gonna kill you.
We cut to the gang again, and they drop off Elliot and Portia, who quickly get picked up by the cops. Dory and Drew meet up with their lawyers to see what to do next. Diamond Cassidy suggests they act more like a couple to sell their defense. Meanwhile, Elliot is getting interrogated, and he is hilarious as always. He plays his part well, and he ends up leaving, having said nothing at all. Portia, on the other hand, doesn't fare well at all. Portia's interrogator is very aggressive towards her. He quickly gets her flustered. She starts to freak out, and she starts to release some information. And again, I feel sorry for Portia. She isn't made for this. But let me tell you a theory about her after I'm done with this episode. Cut back to Dory and Drew. Their lawyers have left, and Drew asks her why she said that they were innocent to the paparazzi, to the press, to everyone. And she says it felt like the truth. And I'm like, were they innocent? Looking back at season 1, the gang wasn't doing anything illegal. And at that time, in the cabin, it felt like their actions were justified. Had they just come clean to the police, I felt like their lives would be much better. But they decided to cover up a murder, so they get what they get. Okay, now back to Portia. So, for the past 3 episodes, and even to episode 5, I've been seeing her cry all the time. She looks so helpless, But now I'm thinking that maybe she's an evil mastermind, because let's not forget, Portia is an actress and she's a good one at that. So maybe she's playing all of them so she won't get to pay for their crimes. I'm thinking that maybe she's playing the innocent little lamb. Oh, I didn't do anything, my friends did everything, which is true, but she doesn't go along with the game plan because maybe she sees it as not beneficial for her, so she's basically intentionally throwing everyone under the bus. And I feel like during the season finale she's gonna reveal who she really is. That's just my thought process. Episode 4. Elliot confronts Portia and they have a fight over the documents that she signed in jail. I'm thinking Portia could be a symbol for like justice. Maybe if they all came clean they would be better off. Technically what she's doing is right, but it is screwing over her friends at the same time. Elliot meets with his parents to discuss their wedding plans. He is approached by a host of a conservative show and she tries to persuade him to get on her show to tell his side of things, and he declines. Drew meets with an old friend from middle school and he's super psycho and aggressive, and at first he's just like, what the hell is Drew doing? But it turns out that he wants to obtain some DVDs and tapes that they made in middle school, and the reason why he wants to get these tapes is because there's one particular tape of him and his old friends, quote-unquote friends, bullies. There's a tape of him killing a swan. They make him and they bully him into killing a swan, and when you see it, it's really gruesome, and when he watches it, he's disturbed too and very disappointed in himself. He ends up stealing the tape, threatens his middle school friend not to say anything or whatever, and he proceeds to run off with it. I'm thinking that he wants to destroy it to make sure it doesn't come back to hurt him in court. Dory, in the meanwhile, meets with April's twin, and she asks her if she knows where April is, and I'm really thinking, how is Dory able to handle all of this? She's on trial for one murder and she killed somebody else, so her mind must be all wacko. She says that she hasn't seen her, and she goes off to the gym and she gets spit on and called a whore, and that's the nicest bits of what she was called. She quickly runs off to her apartment and she loses her shit on the press like a mad woman when she gets there, and it really just shows how her mind is breaking down, or at least in this episode her mind is breaking down. Okay, so next up we have Portia. She is getting some comfort from going to church. She is severely alone and she's scared and super desperate. Like, it's sad to watch sometimes. Anyways, not much to say there. There's also something I should mention in this episode. There's an unknown character that's obsessed with Dory. They've been stealing her shoes and they got her name tattooed on their knuckles. This character admits that they have never met Dory, but is evident by the photos on their walls that this person has been following her very closely and is intending on meeting Dory really soon. Episode 5. We finally meet Dory's parents and she gets them to join her for an interview on TV to help better her image. They meet up at her apartment to do some media training. Drew's also there, but he doesn't really participate. He just kind of eats his pasta in the corner. Diamond Cassie, Dory's lawyer, doesn't really seem too keen on him because she constantly throws shade at him. And it's kind of funny.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I thought that was perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here.
When the interview happens, the family's having trouble getting along and have a freak out right before the interview. We find out why Dory has stopped talking to her parents. Soon after the family rallies together for the interview, they really say good, genuine things about one another. And I don't know if it's the guilt or maybe hearing loving words from her parents, but Dory breaks down and she cries. And it looks good, so hopefully this will help her image. And this is something in general the show is really good at doing. Sure, it can be campy and silly and you get caught up with the jokes and the laughs, but when the serious moment hits, you just get caught off guard about how believable and how well done it's placed, and you're just like, you feel it and you're like, oh god, this is really bad, this is really serious. Now on to Elliot. He meets with the wedding planners and it goes well so far. The wedding turns out to be very expensive though, so the planners suggest sponsors, to which Elliot agrees to. The planners also suggest to invite Dory to the wedding to ramp up the profile of the wedding, which Elliot reluctantly agrees because he just wants the wedding to be about him and his fiance, not about Dory. Anyways, lastly, Portia. She is trying to make friends and she decides that the church would be a good fit for her. So we see her really being on the outs with her friends. I mean, she doesn't really have much screen time with them. And the chemistry with her and her church pals isn't even all that great, but you can see that she is just settling for them because she really wants the company. The good thing though is that they actually defend her when she's actually sitting with them, talking with them, not having the best time. When the media shows up to harass her, they actually defend her and shoo off the media and they get her to a better place. So I'm thinking that maybe from that action of, you know, having people to rally behind her, she's gonna be very religious and maybe stick to the church. Okay, so that's pretty much my take on the first 5 episodes of season 3. I have a lot of worries about the group, like how Drew might be someone dealing with a lot of darkness secretly that we just don't know about, or how maybe Portia could be an evil mastermind. But, you know, all in all, I am very excited to see the next 5 episodes. Search Party has always been like a really entertaining show to watch and I've always enjoyed it, so I decided to do reviews on it. If you feel the same as I do or any different, please comment down below. Like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching.